I'm Rashonda, and I'm the creator of this YouTube channel, along with the artbyro.com website, where you can find over 200 art and drawing tutorials. So if you're into drawing and art, then this is the place for you. And in today's video, we're going to be looking at how to add some texture to your brick wall design. So most people know how to draw a brick wall, but adding some texture and making it have more detail to it, maybe that's something that you're new to. And if so, then you're in the right place as well. So let's go ahead and go over to the art studio and get started on learning how to draw some texture in our bricks. Okay, so when adding some texture to the brick, what I like to do is add some cracks, add some little chips in the brick, just to make it look a little bit nicer, add some extra details to it. So I'm going to start by taking black, and since I'm doing this wall black and gray, those are the colors I want to stick with. And what I want to do for the texture is just add some random, these are, you know, when you look at bricks, they got little divots in them, little chips, and you know, the surface isn't completely flat. There's little divots in it. So we're just going to add just some random dots on here to represent those little divots or chips or whatever you would want to call them. This one's a little bit thinner. You want some variety. We're not trying to follow any kind of a pattern with this. Just putting some random dots inside the brick. And this will add a nice texture to it. So I'm just switching back and forth. This is a fine point Sharpie pen. This is a medium point Sharpie pen. I'm just kind of switching back and forth between the two so I can get some variation in there. And you don't have to do every brick. You can. It's not necessary. Just do whatever looks good, whatever you think looks right. And then I have this gray marker. And I'm going to add a couple more in there. This marker has a really fine point on one end, which is actually pretty useless, but it does work for this, because at the moment I cannot find my gray outlining pens. They're probably buried underneath something, so this will work for now. I'm just going to add some gray in here. You can do your brick walls any color. They don't have to be orange or gray or any particular color. So now I want to add in some cracks to finish up my brick texture. So I'm going to use this fine point, and I'm just going to pick a spot and add a crack. And when I make the cracks on the brick, I like to add a little, kind of like a chip or whatever at the top from wherever it's coming from. I think it makes it look a little more realistic, because typically you're not going to have your brick's not going to just randomly crack right in the center. It's going to crack from some kind of damage being done to it. So I like to add a little bit of more damage to the brick. And you can do the same thing down in the crack itself. You can add some little chips in there by filling in some of those areas. You don't want to get too carried away by putting a bunch of different cracks in there. We don't need a ton of cracks in the brick. So that's it for the texture. So now all we need to do is finish it up by adding some gray to the brick, and then this card will be finished. So to add the gray, I'm just going to use a gray marker. And what I like to do is just go around the edges of each brick. Now, I would do the same thing if I were doing any color, whatever color I was doing. What I would typically do is I've done some drawings where the bricks were green. I've done them blue, purple, orange. It doesn't matter. The color doesn't matter. You can make your bricks whatever color you want to make them, but I use the same process no matter what color I'm making them, where I do a darker. So if this was green, I would do a darker green for the mortar part and the specks for the texture, and then I would take a lighter green and go around the inside. And then I also go over where the cracks are at. And this just adds a little more to it. This gray's pretty light. You could use a darker gray. You could use something that's more in the mid-range. I don't know that I would want it too dark. But again, that's where the experimenting and trying different things, if you ever are working on your drawings and you're not sure what to do, the best thing to do is to experiment and try something different. But that can be scary because you don't want to ruin your drawing, especially if it's a bigger drawing and you've put a bunch of time into it. So these artist trading cards are nice for experimenting and trying different things. I've always done my brick pretty much the same way. I've never really done this bit that I'm doing right here in a darker color. So I honestly don't know what that would look like. In my mind, I don't think it would look as good, but I don't actually know because I've never tried it. So at some point, that's something that I would want to try on a smaller scale just to see what it looks like, because I don't know. You don't want to always do things exactly the same way. It's more fun to experiment and try new things and see what it looks like, and that's how new discoveries are made, right? So you have to be able to experiment and enjoy yourself. You don't want to be too uptight when you're doing your drawings, that's for sure. So I'm just going over this a second time to darken it up a little bit. With these markers, the more you go over top of them and layer them, they'll keep getting a little bit darker as the color layers up. But I think that's just about it for the bricks. Move that out of the way so you can see it a little bit better. So that's it for the brick wall. Now the other thing we could do, on this one, it's not really going to show up because of the gray. But if you had a darker color in here, something that's not as close to the the white of the card, you could add some white dots in here too. You can't really see it on this, or sometimes I like using a toned paper and the white would show up better on that. But that's also an option. And then the last thing I do also with the white, and this is just a white jelly roll pen. These work really good over top of markers. And a lot of times what I'll do is, to break up this color a little bit, is I'll just add some white. There it goes. I'll add some white in here. And I'm not worried too much about it being accurate as far as shadows and light sources and all that. But I did put my shadow on this side. So typically what I'll do is try to stick with my highlights opposite of where the shadow's at. But mostly I'm doing it just to, like I said, just to break up the big blocks of color in there. So that's it for that. And we're going to call this done. And I will see you next time. Bye. That's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want to get notified of future videos. I appreciate you taking the time to watch the video all the way to the end, and I hope you come back soon. And don't forget to check out the description box where you can find some additional resources and more information that's art related. That's it for today, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!